Welcome to the US Quidditch Tournament Director Certification Training video. This is the video for the 2018-2019 season. This video should be watched by anyone who is interested in becoming a certified USQ Tournament Director, or TD for short, and this video must be watched before attempting the USQ TD Certification Assessment. We had some problems with the microphone during the recording of the first version of this video. This video has the same content that was posted earlier this season. It is just louder. Here is a brief introduction before we get started. My name is Mary Kimball, and I am the USQ Events Director. The primary point of contact for this program is Jeremy Taylor, USQ Tournament Director Certification Coordinator. You can reach him at his email address, jeremy.taylor@usquidditch.org, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the TD certification process. You can also reach us at tdcertification@usquidditch.org or events@usquidditch.org. Before we begin, I want to run through the steps of TD certification. First, sign up with the form link on the USQ website. If you have not done this, please pause the video and complete the form before continuing. Then, watch this video. Finally, complete the TD certification assessment with a perfect score. If you do not pass the assessment, you will need to wait 24 hours before attempting it again. The USQ cheating policy applies to the Tournament Director Certification Assessment. If you attempt the test within 24 hours, you will not become a certified TD even if you get a perfect score on the exam. You may retake the assessment as many times as necessary as long as you wait 24 hours between assessments. TDs must be certified before submitting their event to the USQ event calendar, and that deadline is no later than 1 week before the start of the event. We recommend individuals get certified 4 weeks before the event to best utilize what they have learned in this training session. Next, we will go over the reasons we have the TD certification program. First of all, we want to ensure that TDs are aware of official USQ policies and requirements so that all matches at their event can be USQ official. As always, if you have any questions, you can reach us via email. We also want to continue to increase the quality of events across the league. And lastly, we want to give TDs a chance to communicate and share resources. Just like certified head and lead assistant referees, there is a TD Facebook group which you will be able to join once you complete the assessment with a perfect score. In this group, you'll be able to easily communicate with other TDs and find out the best way to construct hoops, how to line a field, or just communicate and learn from other TDs. You can also use this group to find certified officials. Next, we will go over the main topics that will be covered in this video session. First, we will talk about priorities of tournament planning. Second, the USQ official policies and requirements that you will need to enforce at your event. Third, the best practices in the 5 major areas of tournament planning. Then, crisis management and how best to resolve unforeseen issues that arrive before or during your event. And finally, we will cover the next steps in order to become a USQ Certified Tournament Director. When planning an event, the priorities of tournament planning are the things you most want to emphasize and think about. The 2 most important in order are safety and gameplay. Ensuring the safety of all players, volunteers, and spectators is paramount. Because of this, USQ has a medical staff requirement. All official matches require a certified non-playing, dedicated athletic trainer or EMT to be in attendance. Ideally, this individual should not be playing at the tournament and is solely there to serve as medical staff. Individuals can play in addition to serving as medical staff as long as there is always someone there serving in that role during the duration of an event. If you have 2 players on different teams alternating serving as the medical staff and those teams play each other during the tournament, one of those individuals will have to sit out and serve as the medical staff for the duration of that game. The best way to resolve this is to have a non-playing EMT or athletic trainer at your event. In this situation, we need non-playing as serving no other role than the certified athletic trainer or EMT, including snitching, scorekeeping, etc. We are often asked if an MD or DDS or vet can serve as medical staff, and the answer is no. It has to be an individual with an athletic trainer or EMT EMS certification. To continue with safety, as the TD, you must ensure that water is available for players, spectators, and everyone at your event. It not only needs to be available, but you need to communicate to attendees where to get it. If they are not aware of where water is, players will conserve water, and this can lead to dangerous situations, especially on long and hot days. It is also important to have ice, as it is often needed to treat injuries. Talk to your medical staff and the facility holding your event and figure out the best way for you to have a supply of ice, whether it is made in bulk at the facility or brought from a grocery store by you or your medical staff. It is also your responsibility to make sure all required equipment is there and that it is standard and safe. Work with the referees regarding safety of equipment on the pitch, including player equipment. Referees have the final call about it on the pitch, and you want to avoid a situation where one referee permits a piece of equipment and a second referee disavows it or gives a card for it. Encouraging communication amongst referees is the easiest way to avoid that. It is also important to make sure that all pitches at your event are completely unobstructed, with no grates or trees in the way of play, as well as keeping spectators outside the player area. You may be of the mindset that you want spectators at your event to enjoy themselves and want to get them free food, face painting, etc. But it is important to remember that the reason everyone is there is to watch or play Quidditch, and that you should be focused on gameplay. This includes the quality of event structure like scheduling, bracketing, and officiating. When planning your tournament, a good thing to keep in mind is that you want to guarantee a minimum number of games per team and communicate that to them. There is no USQ requirement on gameplay structure, though we do have recommended tiebreakers that are used at USQ regional and national championships. Those are available on the gameplay policies page, which we will talk about in the next slide. Most tournaments use a combination of round robin or pool play than a bracket, where teams determine seeding by playing in a round robin before competing in a single elimination playoff. The two things you want to think about are, is the gameplay fair, and are attending teams getting a reasonable minimum number of games? Next, we will go over USQ official policies. Please open and review the Gameplay Policies and Form page on the USQ website. You can do this by typing in the URL on your screen, or go to usquidditch.org and go to the Gameplay tab. That will bring you to this page as well. This is an incredibly important page for tournament directors, and we will not be able to cover everything on it in this video. I recommend reviewing this page again before attempting the assessment. I'll cover the major policies in this video. You must submit your event to the USQ events calendar no later than 1 week before. If you have an account as a player, coach, or referee, you can use that to submit your event. Otherwise, create a free account. If you go to the Events tab, once you are logged into your account, you will be able to see the event submission form. The 1 week time limit is one of several hard deadlines for tournament directors, and we do not make exceptions to this policy. After you submit an event to the calendar, it will be manually added by USQ staff. Then, coaches will be able to request attendance to your event, and you as the TD will be able to accept or deny these requests. Pay attention to who requests attendance. If you are running a tournament in Arizona and a team from Minnesota requests to go to your event, you should confirm with them that they actually plan on attending your tournament and didn't select it by mistake. Once you accept a team's attendance request, then coaches must submit a roster no less than 24 hours before the event based on the time as listed on the USQ website. This is another hard deadline, and no exceptions can be made. We recommend that you remind coaches of this deadline so that they do not miss it for any reason, because if they do miss it, their team will be unable to play in your tournament, and anyone not on the roster at the time of the deadline will also not be permitted to play. Coaches may submit their roster and update it as many times as they want. This is what we recommend coaches do, and we suggest that you tell teams to do this as well. If it's 3 or 4 days before an event and a team has not submitted a roster yet, we strongly recommend you contact them and say, "We noticed that you have not submitted a roster, and you have 24 hours before an event to do so. We strongly recommend you submit a roster now and update it as necessary so you do not miss the deadline." Again, this is a hard deadline, and we can make no exceptions for any reason if a team fails to submit a roster. USQ staff will also help with policy compliance and assist TDs during this time. You want to make sure that for the start time of your event, that it is correct on the USQ website and it's the same as the start time that you are advertising everywhere else. We have had issues where different times on the USQ website and a Facebook event have led to confusion about the deadline for roster submissions. As long as you are consistent, you can avoid this confusion. On the day of your tournament, photo IDs need to be checked against each team's roster before their team's first game. It is not necessary to check IDs before every game of the tournament after they've checked in that first time. USQ certified head referees must be paid $15 per official game. Certified lead assistant referees need to be paid $10, and if your snitch is certified, they must be paid $8 per game. All official matches are required to have a certified head referee and a certified lead assistant referee. The snitch is not required to be certified, but again, if the snitch is certified, they must be paid $8 per game. There must be a non-playing certified athletic trainer or EMT available at all times. There must also be a certified tournament director who organized the event and is present there. Finally, each team must have a certified coach present during their games. You as a TD cannot let a match begin if you know that any of these individuals are not present. When any two official teams play at your event, the event must be considered official and entered into USQ standings. Two teams that are official may not agree, even by mutual agreement, to have a match be unofficial. We want to avoid a situation where after a game, one team is claiming that the game was official and the other team is claiming that the game was unofficial. If you need help finding a referee, you can check the referee database on the USQ website or ask for help in the Certified TD Facebook group. If you have any questions about event or roster submission policies, please don't hesitate to email us at tdcertification@usquidditch.org. There have been some changes to the TD policy for the 2018-19 season. For tournaments with 4 or fewer teams, official and/or unofficial, the rules are the same. The TD can serve another role at the tournament, such as player, coach, referee, etc., as these are small tournaments, usually with one field where the TD can either play or serve solely as the TD. New this season, for larger events with 5 or more teams, there must be at least one dedicated TD who serves in that role exclusively for the duration of the event. Additional TDs are still encouraged to help out. In the event of an emergency that requires the TD to leave the tournament, another TD can take over in their absence. Also new this season, we require tournaments that have 3 or more fields to have a second certified TD involved in the planning process. The second TD can hold other roles at the tournament. These changes are being made to ensure that all USQ policies and best practices for tournaments are being consistently followed on site. Next, we are going to talk about our player disciplinary policy, which is about halfway down the gameplay policies inform page. USQ takes breaches of our fair play policy and our member code of conduct seriously. We encourage any captains, TDs, or referees who witness violations of these policies to report them to us so we can investigate them and take further action if necessary. In general, inciting a brawl, participating in a brawl, committing serious foul play, or using violent language or discriminatory remarks toward another individual are all grounds to report a player. If you as TD witness that, you can report it to us using the link in the sidebar on the Gameplay and Policies page. This must be submitted within 1 week of the game taking place. In general, if a player receives a straight red card during the course of a game, that is something we recommend that you submit to us through this form. If you witness something outside of the game or something for which a player does not receive a red card, you can report that as well. If you go further down the page, you'll get to our game appeals policy. The only outcome of an accepted appeal is to have that game removed from the USQ standings. A team cannot expect to have the game replayed or the score changed. The grounds for an appeal are a clearly incorrect implementation of the rules that played a direct role in determining the outcome of the game. Judgment calls and miscalls do not apply. If a coach wants to appeal that, they can do so by going to the Gameplay Policies and Forms page and going to the Game Appeal link in the sidebar. If a coach comes to you about the result of the game, you can let them know the grounds for an appeal and you can encourage them to apply if they would like to. There is no penalty for applying for an appeal and having that appeal not granted. Event sanctioning is an optional process by which an event can receive additional support from USQ in exchange for running an exemplary event. The 2 biggest benefits of event sanctioning are the ability to get a certificate of additional insured to cover the facility where the event is taking place, and also the ability to potentially receive financial support for your event. For unofficial events, there is the added benefit of being able to have field testing at your tournament. Let's talk about the certificate of additional insured. First, all players in all USQ official matches are covered by USQ accident insurance policy, even if they are not playing at a sanctioned event, as long as the match meets all USQ official policies and requirements. However, the facility your event takes place at is not covered by the USQ accident insurance policy. Some facilities, especially sports complexes and parks, require what is called a certificate of additional insured that shows that they are covered under USQ accident insurance policy. Universities and colleges usually don't require one, but it is always best to ask. If you need one, you can apply to have your event sanctioned, and if it is, USQ can issue a certificate of additional insured to show that your facility is covered by USQ's insurance. In order to apply for event sanctioning, you'll need to apply at the link provided before the deadline for your event. A TD must submit an application no later than 1 month in advance of the event, though applications received after that point will be considered on a case-by-case basis. If financial support is requested, applications are accepted 4 times a year. For events between September 15th and October 31st, the deadline to apply is August 30th. For events between November 1st and December 31st, the deadline is September 13th. For events between January 1st and February 28th, the deadline is November 15th. And lastly, for events between March 1st and April 30th, the deadline is January 17th. For best consideration, TDs are encouraged to submit their sanctioning application as early as possible. Please note that there is limited financial support available for events outside of the September 15th through April 30th timeframe, and applicants hosting events between May 1st and September 14th are encouraged to apply at least 3 months in advance. Check the USQ website for full information. Financial support is not guaranteed. We may decide to sanction your event but not be able to offer financial support, but it is something you can request. If you request financial support, we will ask to see a budget with a statement of need for your event, and you will include that at the time that you submit your application. What USQ requests in return for a sanctioned event is that official match policies and match requirements are followed for all games, even those that are unofficial. This includes all games being played on a regulation pitch, all rules in the most recent rulebook being followed, and there also must be a paid certified head referee and a paid certified lead assistant referee for all games, even those that are unofficial. For unofficial matches involving Quidditch Canada teams or players, including fantasy tournaments featuring both American and Canadian players, we will accept QC head referee certification in lieu of USQ head referee certification. Lead assistant referees will still be required. QC referees need to have passed the written QC assistant ref, snitch ref, and head ref tests to serve in the LAR role. Certified head referees and lead assistant referees must still be paid the standard league fee for those games. At sanctioned events, unofficial teams are not required to submit rosters at unofficial events. Attending a sanctioned event as a player is a benefit of official membership, so any player who wants to play on an official team must pay $10 per person if they are not already a USQ official member, and they can do so via a PayPal button on the left sidebar in the event sanctioning page. Quidditch Canada members may attend USQ sanctioned events for free. However, they will not be covered by USQ's accident insurance policy unless they pay the $10 per person registration fee. Anyone else who is not a current USQ member must pay the $10 registration fee. As a TD, it is your responsibility to make sure everyone who is not a USQ or Quidditch Canada official member pays individually via that PayPal button. Next, we are going to talk about best practices in the 5 major areas of tournament planning. We'll start with gameplay. The first thing for gameplay is that pitches must be regulation. This means that the pitch must be full size, fully demarcated, and unobstructed. Under Rulebook 12, the interior pitch shape has changed to a rectangle, and the dimensions are slightly different, 66 by 36 yards. The player area is the same as last season, 72 by 48 yards. However, the pitch boundary has been hardened. The player area boundary is now primarily just a barrier to spectators and an area free of dangerous terrain, and spectators no longer need to be kept 3 yards away from this area. Please keep in mind that pitches must be demarcated using some kind of visible and relatively permanent marker. If you use cones, keep in mind that cones can shift and move periodically throughout the day, and check that they are reset as necessary. Pitches must be unobstructed, which means that there can be no light posts, trees, or grates on them, including on the soft boundary. Pitches must not overlap. The next part of gameplay is scheduling. We strongly recommend that you allow at least 45 minutes for each game slot, and that you encourage teams to warm up and do team chants before the scheduled start of a game. For example, if you have a game slot from 11 a.m. to 11:45 a.m., the game needs to start promptly with brooms up at 11. Hopefully the game will be over by 11:30, which will give teams 15 minutes to shake hands, get off the field, and for the next team to warm up. Some games of Quidditch will run long, and it is important for you as the TD to have a sense of urgency and be communicating to all teams and captains, along with referees, to ensure that the tournament runs smoothly. If a game is running long, you don't want to be in the mindset that you can make up the time somewhere else. Rather, think, what can I be doing right now to make sure my next game is ready to go as soon as possible after this previous game ends? A good thing to do in this situation is find the captains of the team scheduled to play next and say to them, hey, this game looks like it is going to run long. We are going to get your game started as soon as this game ends, so please have your teams warm up on the sidelines. Then find the officials and tell them the same thing and ask the head referee to hold the captain's meeting on the sidelines in advance. That way the game can still start on time even though the previous game ran long. Captains will almost always be willing to accommodate you if you ask them to warm up on the sidelines in advance. If you do not give them notice, it is likely that they will be upset that you didn't give their team time to warm up. It is very important to communicate with everyone and in general have a sense of urgency for the entire event. Longer game slots can also help, but we recommend that they be 45 minutes. One other reminder that falls under gameplay is that TDs are responsible for submitting scores for their event on the USQ website within 2 or 3 days after your tournament. That way standings throughout the season can be as accurate as possible. Next, we're going to talk about hospitality. People often think about hospitality as just being nice to people, but it is more to it than that, and it extends before and after your event. Communication is an extremely important part of hospitality. You want to wait to announce the date of your tournament until the basic details are finalized. You want to avoid a situation where you announce the details, then have to change them because a contract wasn't signed or some other problem. You can take an interest poll to see when teams are interested in coming to your tournament. You want to be sure that you have a reservation at the facility that you are hosting your tournament and at what date and time before officially announcing the event. You want to have one central place for people to get information about your event, whether that's a Facebook group or the USQ website or something else. For the day of the event, you want to make sure people have specific directions for parking and also specific directions to the fields. Signage will help with this, but it is important to talk about it on the event page. It may seem like a small thing, but it can make a difference between your tournament starting on time and having to wait half an hour for teams to arrive. During the event, you want to have a customer service mindset and treat everyone with respect, whether they are a player, spectator, or volunteer. You want to address their concerns quickly and efficiently and politely as possible. You might have a situation dealing with impolite spectators, for example. You might have a game where it ends on a controversial snitch catch and a parent of one of the players begins yelling at the referee. You want to prevent this situation from escalating by inserting yourself into the situation. First, you would go up to the parent, introduce yourself as the tournament director, and talk to them, listening to their concerns. That way, you separate the parent and the referee and prevent the situation from escalating. You want to listen to their concerns, but don't make any promises for things you won't or can't do. In that situation, the parent might demand that you replay the game, and that is something that you are not permitted to do by USQ policy. Or they might demand that the referee doesn't ref another match all tournament. While this is your prerogative since you are the TD and you set the referee schedule, you don't want to make a promise or even hint that you might do something until you have talked to the referee, the captains, and the rest of your tournament staff. You want to listen to their concerns and make them feel like they have been heard and that their opinion is valued. Then you want to say something like, I understand your concern about the controversial call, but we do need to be supportive of our referees, especially with a sport as young as Quidditch, and we need to ensure that it continues to grow. Unfortunately, it's the nature of any sport that there will always be controversial calls, and it's important to treat all officials with respect. Say something like that, and remember to stay positive and polite and on message, and don't get defensive if they begin to get rude to you. You want to talk with them and make sure they understand what you understand about their concerns. So when they walk away, even if they are still upset, they will think, I'm glad the tournament director listened to me and took the time to understand my perspective. That's the goal for this situation, and that's the mentality about customer service you want to have at your event. After the event, there's still hospitality to be done. You want to follow up with the people who attended to find out what they thought about your tournament. There are 2 reasons why you want to do that. The first is that people have good suggestions. It also makes people more likely to come to your next event if they think, wow, the TD cares what I have to say and will take my opinions into account when planning their next tournament. That can be a phone call, Google form you set out, post-event meeting. Please take note that USQ also has a post-event survey that is available for all events, not just ones for USQ, and tournament directors are encouraged to have people fill out that form so that we have a record of things that happen and that we can help gather feedback as well. Now we'll talk about logistics. This is one of the most important areas of tournament planning, and it's one of the more detailed-oriented parts of the process. It includes making sure you have everything you need, when you need it, where you need it, like permits, medical staff, audio-visual equipment, tables, tents, chairs, lights, water, hoops and balls, porta potties, etc. Think about what you have needed when you've attended an event before, as well as the types of people attending your event and what they're going to need. For example, where's medical staff going to be? Where will they get ice? Where are they getting medical supplies? Are they bringing their own? Are you providing them? How are they getting paid? You want to make a budget for your tournament, and if you apply for funding through event sanctioning, you're going to be required to provide one to USQ. You want to keep your budget updated as you go throughout the planning process. You don't want to run into a situation where you went way over budget and spent more in the tournament than you can recoup. Making a budget is a good way to track spending and manage costs. Print things out in advance, like scorecards, schedules, flyers, things like that. Think about what you may need to do the day before your event, like making score posters and running last-minute errands. Logistics is a lot of making checklists, double and triple checking them. The next thing we will talk about is marketing. Marketing is one of the least urgent areas of tournament planning, but it is still important. The other 4 areas are imperative for running a successful tournament and for keeping the 2 core values of tournament planning in mind, safety and gameplay, but marketing is there to make sure people know about your event and come to it as a spectator. A good way to market your event is to have a fundraiser beforehand and promote it there. Videos are a great tool for marketing, and they help people understand that Quidditch is a full contact mixed gender sport and that it's really exciting to watch. If it's an option, it's a good idea to sell merchandise at your tournament. There's 2 ways of selling merchandise. You can buy it, design it yourself, and then sell it at a higher price at your event, or you can take pre-orders. You want to think about what's the most cost-effective way that you can sell merchandise at your tournament. Also keep in mind that your venue may require you to obtain certain permits and/or licenses to sell merch on site during your event. If that's the case, give yourself at least a few weeks to acquire those. And lastly, take advantage of social media. If you have any questions about marketing or want more resources, event sanctioning is a great way that USQ can help support you in this area of tournament planning. The last major area of tournament planning is volunteers. Volunteers are extremely important, and it is the one that varies the most depending on the size of your event. At a small tournament, you'll have just a couple people, but at a larger tournament, you might have potentially dozens helping you out. This includes gameplay volunteers, people at HQ, those helping with social media or live streaming on site, medical staff, referees, and snitches. Basically everyone helping out at your event. When you're planning the tournament, you want to think about how you're prioritizing volunteer needs. The big thing we want to emphasize about volunteers is that it's important to recruit them early. People will be most excited about your tournament when you announce it weeks or even months before. You don't want to wait until the night before your event to recruit volunteers. We recommend that when you post about your tournament, you include a way for people to sign up to volunteer and also give you their contact information. It is much easier to whittle down a large volunteer pool than it is to build up a large one. An important class of volunteers are field managers. For tournaments with more than one field, these are individuals that are posted at one field each, and they are essentially the TD of that field. They make sure everything runs smoothly there. This includes starting games on time, making sure all officials are where they need to be, keep track of equipment so that nothing is removed from the pitch, and resolve any issues that might come up during the course of a game and also make you aware of them as the TD of the event. Field managers need to be assertive and have a sense of urgency, like TDs, to make sure that the field continues to run on schedule. If you need help finding volunteers at your event, we recommend that you post on some of the regional Facebook groups. And if you're looking specifically for officials, you can post in the TD group on Facebook, and someone will post in the head referee and lead assistant referee group for you if you are not already a member yourself. We will wrap up the training portion of this video with a brief discussion on crisis management. It is true that at any given tournament, things are going to happen, issues are going to arise that you didn't foresee. It is your responsibility as tournament director to plan for crises as best as you can. You need to respond efficiently, appropriately, and professionally. If you manage a crisis well, attendees might not even know there was a problem in the first place. The best way to do this is wait to announce a problem until you have a solution. For example, let's say it's the Wednesday before your tournament and a team informs you that they have to drop. You don't want to contact the captains at that moment and tell them that the team dropped and that you're working on a solution. This can make teams worry and consider dropping themselves. If a team drops last minute, you have a number of options. You could bring in another team, You could have every team that would play that team a bye. You could create an unofficial team for that event. You could restructure the pools. You have a lot of options. Think about all your options carefully and deliberately, and once you have a solution worked out, then communicate that to everyone what happened and what you are doing to fix it. For example, you could say, this team had a drop, and because of that, we are doing this. Even if you as a TD were freaking out trying to fix the schedule, it seems to everyone attending the event that there wasn't really a problem, just a minor change. Another example is if the weather looks bad for the day of the event. You want to look at possible solutions, such as changing the schedule or finding a different venue. If you can find no certain solution, you want to let teams know something before they leave for your event. Say something like, it looks like the weather is going to be bad on Saturday, and because of this, we need to shorten, postpone, or cancel the tournament. In general, you do want to wait to tell teams until you have a solution to a problem, but if you're unable to find one, you do need to be forthcoming to teams. On weather, you want to get information from your facility on their inclement weather policy. Like, does the facility close to rain? Do they let you even play in the rain? If it's raining, do you need to tell your teams to play in tennis shoes instead of cleats so they don't damage the field? Make sure the players understand what the policies are as well. If there are any policies about lightning and thunderstorms, like do you need to get out of the field all day or can you return in 30 minutes, make sure that you have those as well. You want to get all these policies in writing from the facilities manager to avoid any confusion on the day of the event, especially if the person coordinating your reservation is not going to be providing you support on the day of. You want to know all of your options for an event, so if there are problems, you can keep things moving along as closely to the original schedule as possible. As a TD, you need to be prepared to enforce USQ policies. This rarely happens, but sometimes a captain is misinformed about USQ policies and may attempt to violate them. You might have a situation where the morning of a tournament, a team's coach comes up to you and says, I want to let you know that one of our players on our roster broke their arm yesterday, so they can't play today. We do have an extra player traveling with us, and they will be taking their place. Just because a coach is telling you something doesn't necessarily mean they are allowed to do that. In this case, if the backup player is not on the roster, then they are unable to play in the tournament. You would need to tell the coach, thanks for letting me know. I'm sorry for the injury to your player, but due to USQ policies, you are not able to change your roster, and you won't be able to have someone substitute for that injured player at this time. That's just an example, making sure you are familiar with the policies and have the assertiveness to enforce them. Remember, it is your responsibility as TD to ensure that all USQ policies at your event are being followed and enforced. If you run into any issues with crisis management, you can contact Jeremy via email at jeremy.taylor@usquidditch.org. You can also reach us at tdcertification@usquidditch.org or events@usquidditch.org. USQ employees are on call every weekend during the season to answer any last-minute questions or assist with these kind of problems. Their phone numbers are in their email signatures, and TDs can text or call them at their phone numbers. Now that we have covered all aspects of tournament planning, we'll go over the next steps in TD certification. You are able to take the certification assessment at your convenience. One of the questions on the assessment will ask you for the password in this video. That password is quaffle pitch. One word, lowercase, no spaces. I'm going to spell it out for you. QUAFFLEPITCH. After you take the TD assessment and you pass it with a score of 100%, you will be fully certified. If you do not pass the assessment with a score of 100%, you will need to wait a full 24 hours before attempting it again. If you retake it within 24 hours of a failed attempt, even if you get 100%, you will not be a certified TD, and you may face additional repercussions for violating our 24-hour waiting period policy. Be sure that you wait the full 24 hours before retaking the assessment. If you have any questions at all, please do not wait to contact us, and we can be reached at tdcertification@usquidditch.org. That's it for our training session. I wish you the best of luck on the TD certification assessment.